So hello and welcome, I'm Frederick Dunn and this is The Way to Be. What we're looking at is a swarm. Of course, there's nothing new about that. I was trying to make a very simple, basic video on how to collect a honeybee swarm from a tree in a bucket with a Queen Excluder on top, install it into a hive, and that would be the end of it. But what ended up happening is I have a video that took me 3 days to make. That's right, it started June the 24th here in the northeastern part of the United States, northwestern part of the state of Pennsylvania. Temps in the 90s and the bees are flying out and landing everywhere. And this swarm install wrapped up today, June the 26th of 2025. Seems simple, doesn't it? 7-gallon bucket, translucent, Queen Excluder on top so I can keep control of the swarm and the queen that would be in the bucket. And of course my wife volunteered to make a video of me collecting this swarm and showing you how to install it into a basic beehive. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get up on a ladder, spritz these down with cold, fresh water to give them some weight, trim some of these branches away from this maple tree, and then I'm going to shake them into the bucket. Now I'm not risking my neck. These things aren't very high off the ground, right around 8 feet. So I only need a 6-foot step ladder to get to them. Now when you spray them with fresh water, you can guess they're thirsty, because remember I said it's in the 90s in Fahrenheit here. And they drink it right up. But this gets them clustered a little tighter, gives me a little more control. Then I can shake them into the bucket, and then I'm going to show you how I install them into a beehive right here in my own apiary. That's a lot of bees. Now I underestimated this swarm, and you're going to see it all if you stick around. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks and ways that you know that things are working or not working out. So I'm going to show you some tools. Things don't always go great. So we got the bees. I'm guessing that we got the queen. I'm going to show you how we know if we have the queen, because the bee's behavior is going to tell us. So I'm just wearing a vented veil. I am wearing nitrile gloves. They don't protect you from stings, but the bees don't seem to care about stinging you when you have nitrile gloves on. Good dexterity. Now we look back at the branch that we shook the swarm from. Why do we do that? Well, I hope to see that the bees are in disarray. They are looking for their queen. Now a swarm this size could have multiple queens. I'm going to show you how I figure that out too. But they're searching all over the place. Eventually they will all fly off of this branch and go back to wherever they came from, or join my bucket by collecting themselves onto the Queen Excluder that I'm going to set on the top of it. So of course the queen does not show up again. So that means I've got her. Now, if I've got the queen in the bucket, we should see some behavior from the bees that are on top of that, and they will be fanning their gnats enough to let the rest of the bees know that the queen is no longer present on the tree. She's here in the bucket. This metal Queen Excluder I got from Better Bee. So if you're looking for one yourself, that's where to get them. Has a wooden frame. This is my preferred Queen Excluder. In the past, I haven't liked Queen Excluders at all, but now I find them to be very useful for a lot of unconventional things, because if I shake a swarm into this bucket, semi-translucent bucket by the way, the pheromone passes through, but the queen can't. She can't leave. She can't fly away. So I'm also going to turn this into a very basic beehive setup. So I have a reversible solid bottom board. This is one of the least expensive bottom boards that you can get, so that's what I'm using. It is reversible, which means it has a 3/4 inch side and a 3/8 inch side, and I did that. So this is a Propel Hive box. I'm using that because, as I said last January, I will be cycling out old hives and putting in new Propel boxes in their stead. Acorn heavy wax frames. I'm also using some wooden frames that have Premier foundation in them, and they've already got some wax and a little bit of honey, capped honey, on this plastic foundation. So this will entice the bees a little bit and give them something to carry them over until they can really get going there. So 10 frame standard deep Langstroth box. I'm going to checkerboard wooden frames and the one piece acorn heavy wax frames, and we're going to see how it goes. So I've decided, because we're in a nectar flow right now, I'm not going to feed them. This particular foundation right here has drawn comb. It looks like it's had some robbing, and of course capped honey, and then we've got some pollen here, and so the previous colony didn't finish drawing that out. So we've put this all together. Propola, patent pending. Propola is from the research that Dr. Marlo Spivak did up at the University of Minnesota's Bee Lab, and it makes a healthier hive body. So look that up if you're interested. I have a really old Bee Smart insulated inner cover with a medium frame that I stuck to it with expansion foam. Before you put this top on, you want to make sure and scrape away all the old propolis, burr comb, things like that, so it will sit flush on your frames and your box. Now, I did scrape them off onto the ground. I usually like to put them in a bucket. In this case also, there's an upper entrance option, which I hot glued closed. You also have a little cap here that I'm going to remove as part of my management of these bees. I will show you that later, but that gives you options to feed, and in this case I'm going to spread a pheromone into this box. So that's pretty much the setup. Also, that 3/8 inch opening, I'm going to shim that in, and it will be 3/8 inches high by 3/8 inches wide, and I'm going to leave it that way all year round. So there you have it. That would be considered the winter side of a reversible bottom board, but for me, summer, winter, all the same. I don't change them. And the bees, once they get settled in, will propolize that and glue it up really good, and it will hold that position. And there you go. So now we have to get the bees in. They're in this bucket. What am I going to do to get them to go into the hive? Well, first I want to read the bees a little bit. Now, this is a patient beekeeper's guide to beekeeping. As I mentioned, this took me 3 days. You don't have to watch it for 3 days, of course, but what you're seeing here happened over that time frame. So I moved the bucket with the Queen Excluder up against the hive, and I just want to see the bees' behavior. I want to see if they'll actually just start walking in to the hive and do their inspections. I also want to provide them with some shade, so I'm using a hive visor. If you've never seen one of these before, I have a YouTube video showing you how to build your own on my YouTube channel, which is Frederick Dunn. You can just click on that and make your own. They make a huge difference. They are going to drop the surface temperature under the hive visor by 15 degrees, which is a lot when it's in the 90s, and look what the bees did. As soon as they sense that there's shade, they march right over and get themselves up under it. That's what hive visors are for. They keep rain off your bees, they give them shade on the front of your hive and the landing board, and in the wintertime they keep snow off of the landing board entrance too, to some degree, and they definitely keep the freezing rain from sealing up your entrances. So we're just going to watch them go, and of course they're getting into the shade, not walking into the hive itself. So I'm going to need them to do that, but the good news is we've got the queen. She's in the bucket. They're not going to go anywhere else without her. Even if they tried, if they decide to fly away, they're going to come right back because the queen can't get through that excluder. But the good news is, just like what's going on right here, the workers are checking out the entrance and they start walking in. So they begin to approve of the box that I've provided them with, and definitely going to get them to all move in. Now I have this stainless steel screen. I'm going to pull the inner plug off of this. Why would I be doing that? And not just that, the good news is the propolis there got nice and hot, and I could just push the screen onto it and glue it there, because I'm going to find the queen. I'm going to put her in this queen roller style cage, and I'm going to stick her inside the hive, insulated inner cover, and I'm going to use her pheromone to draw all of these bees into the hive. This way I don't risk losing them, because what I want to do after I entice them in is put a Queen Excluder over the entrance of the hive, and that way I'm going to prevent them from absconding. This is an enormous swarm for me, so I don't want to lose these bees. Now, this time of year, Swarm in June worth a silver spoon, swarm in May worth a load of hay, swarm in July, which is coming right up next week. Let them fly, that's what they say. So the bees are going in, but they're also causing me some grief here because they're also clustering outside. Now the bees that line up at the entrance and start fanning their Nasonov glands, they're approving of the interior space. And so they're all going in, it seems. But I also noticed that they're forming separate clusters outside the hive. Sometimes when that happens, it means there are other queens in the swarm. Now, given the size of the swarm, that's possible. So I'm going to sit here and stare at them and watch them and check up on them, see what's going on. And if another queen goes cruising by, I'm ready with clean queen clips and rollers to put them in. And because if I find more than one queen and I remove these extra queens, the rest of them, there's a queen right there. So I found her when I pulled the cover off. 99% of the time, they are on the underside of the Queen Excluder. And then I have her in the roller cage. I'm just going to hold her in there with my thumb and forefinger here, closing her up. Where's she going? Inside the hive, on top of that screen, inside the on top of the insulated inner cover, inside the feeder shim. So you're going to place her right there, and the scent from this queen is going to waft down through the box, out the entrance, and all the other bees out there are going to know that she's in there, and they're going to get inside this hive perfectly. At least that's what I hoped. Now there they go. They got the message. They started piling through the entrance. Now I do have a challenge on my hands here. I know I have the queen inside, but I can't release her yet. Why wouldn't I do that? Well, if I release the queen now, I don't have anything to keep them all from absconding, which is still a possibility. So I don't want to turn her loose until I get a Queen Excluder, I'm just going to call it that, on the landing board, which would prevent her from departing with all of these fantastic workers that are guaranteed to give me a lot of resources between now and the end of 2025. So I also dumped the contents of the bucket out on the ground. I want to see what they're doing, all the while paying attention to see if there isn't another queen in there. So I'm watching them here on the ground. You would notice if there was a queen. They're pretty distinctive. I want to see the behavior of the other bees around her. Sometimes queens that might not be mated can join up with a large swarm on the go. And you can pick them up, pull them away, and once you eliminate that competing queen pheromone, then they'll all concentrate on the one queen that is in the hive. But guess what? I did not see another queen. Is it possible that these are all from one hive? And we know the hive that they departed from, it was a lay-ins hive. A fully loaded, every frame occupied lay-ins hive. So this is a lot of bees. And again, it's not even the end of June yet. So this is high productivity. We have a swarm that I'm not willing to let go, even if it uses up all of my time. So here we go. Look at this. See my frustration? They're still on the outside of the hive. This becomes a puzzle for me because they're constantly streaming into the entrance. So how is that possible? It's like a reverse clown car. Bees are going in. They're all collected together. They're moving into the hive in a steady stream, but my secondary problem is this. Other bees that are flying by are just joining this swarm. They keep adding to the number. So they are filling up this 10-frame deep Langstroth box. And I did an inspection that unfortunately I did not video. The frames inside this box are covered in bees. So now I have a problem. I've got a big pile of bees outside. I've got lots of bees inside. In every way that I know of, they're demonstrating that they want to stay right here with this queen who, don't forget, is still in a cage inside the hive so that I have some control. Now they're settling in rather than going in. I don't like that. I want them all to go in. Not only that, I'm used to fooling bees and having them fall for my tricks. Look at them going through the little opening there. A steady stream, they're just piling in. One bee after another. And then we have these out here that are just passive, hanging out, doing nothing, not going in. And what I figured out as time passed is that the box actually has too many bees in it. So this is kind of like bearding already. And bearding is when bees collect on the outside of a hive because they're in the way, because things are happening inside that require work, and the rest of these bees are just in the way. So what's the solution for that? Now normally I would not double up a new hive with double deep boxes, but in this case I think I'm going to have to. They're just not going in. I see the bees constantly moving in. The day is coming to an end. The sun is low in the western sky. And I've blown my day, so I added a second box. That's right. So I put 2 deep Langstroth 10 frame boxes together on that solid bottom board, and I need the bees to go in, and they are constantly going in. Now since I know where the queen is, I put a Queen Excluder in between the 2 boxes because I want to keep the queen in the bottom box, and I want the rest of these bees to move freely through both boxes. There's no reason to think that they won't actually be productive in a space this size, because this is the first time I've tried to hive a swarm that was too large for the hive I was putting them in. So they just keep going in just like before. The following day, June the 25th. Here they are in the morning. That's right, I lost sleep thinking about these because I don't want to lose them. So I got up early, just at sunrise, and I came out to see what they're doing. And finding them clustered underneath the hive visor again and underneath the landing board was more than a little bit annoying. But I did notice, looking closer, they're moving in. But they did that all day the day before. They just kept moving in. Of course, some go out, some fly away, some are probably getting water and coming back and hydrating the rest of the swarm here. But there seems to be some renewed interest in this double deep Langstroth hive now. So they all started moving in. I also noticed that this cluster underneath the hive visor looks a little porous now. So they're actually moving in under the cluster, which is interesting to me. And keep in mind the queen is inside. And I have to think about releasing her, but there again, she might cut out the minute I pull that screen and put her down into the box. And I'm not losing these bees. It's a game of patience. 3 days we're going to work on these bees, and I'm going to watch them. Look at them going in. Don't fall for it. They can turn around and abscond in a second. What they can't do and what they won't do is abscond without their queen. And I'm not kidding you when I say I sat and stared at these bees for hours because I was so certain that I would see another queen and I would collect her. But none showed up. Now, if there was a queen on the outside, even though I have a queen inside in that inner cover, on top of the inner cover, another queen could have flown off and divided this group in half, and of course they would have been fine taking off because there's more than enough bees here for multiple colonies. More than you could ever need. And here they sit, glued to one queen. So one of the things that I like here is that we have cheerleader bees moving all over the other bees, vibrating and shaking them, which is very different from a waggle dance. They are activating these bees that are parked outside the hive, and they're trying to get them going. Where are they trying to get them to go? Inside. So a new day has begun, and if they're trying to start a new colony, they definitely want to start off now. We even have festooning going on out here. Look at them all holding on to each other's feet. Chicken walks through to inspect things as they do every single morning. That's a barred Plymouth Rock hen, super friendly. They don't eat bees. So they keep moving in. And eventually they made a mistake and cleared enough space on this landing board for me to put my Queen Excluder on. And once I did that, I can release the queen inside the hive and close that little black cap. Here we have a yellow jacket wasp nibbling away at the structural support for the hive stand and just chewing some cellulose to go and make her paper wasp nest. Now look at this. We missed it, but I got that Queen Excluder over the entrance there, which we're going to call a Queen Excluder. Now what am I seeing? This looks like a rush of bees just moving in, but what they'd really done is they departed. In fact, my wife came and got me and told me that they were swarming, so I went out to see what was going on. Massive swarm in the air. Joke's on them, because the queen is released inside the hive. She can't leave because my Queen Excluder is on the landing board. It's just sitting there, by the way. It's not screwed on or clamped or glued. They just sit easy. You can get them from Dadant, D-A-D-A-N-T, and I have a bunch of them now because I find more ways to use these almost every day. I'm a big fan of Queen Excluders because look what happened. They tried to leave me, and now they all have to come back because they have no choice. By the way, this was June the 25th. And so they're stuck with me. And by releasing the queen, of course, now she can start laying eggs, doing whatever it is she wants to do, and that will stimulate the bees to invest in this space, and that's what I want them to do. That's how I know when I can remove this Queen Excluder. It's when I see that they're invested. What would be some signs that let me know that they're going to settle in finally, even though now they pretended to like me, they pretended to move in, and then they tried to depart. So it's a battle of will here. But if I see them cleaning house, there isn't a lot to clean, as you saw when you looked at the frames and the foundation and everything else, but maybe they'll be dragging out a couple of dead bees or something. That's house cleaning. Maybe they'll start to defend the landing board, see a bunch of guards there. That means they're claiming the territory. The best thing you could possibly see would be pollen coming in, resources coming in, but that may not happen for days. Now, one of the things that can't escape my Queen Excluder would be drones, but the drones are already gone. They took off the day before because, remember, this thing was not over the entrance until the 25th. And this is just slow motion of them all moving back in because I didn't let them go because the thing that anchors them to this box, she's still in there. And she's released because she can't go anywhere. And this slow motion sequence, by the way, you can watch the full length at the end of this video. This is today, June the 26th, and I removed my Queen Excluder. Why? Because I saw a couple of loads of pollen coming in. Now that doesn't mean that she's already laid eggs and that those eggs have already hatched and that they already have open larvae, but it means that they're committed and that they're storing resources and that the guards are there and they're calm now, and these are 2 full boxes of bees. So, I won. Game of Patience, 3-day install. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. And if you watch to the very end, you can see the full length of those slow motion sequences, and I hope you got something out of this hive video today.